everybody, it's Alice from Creative Expressions Arts, and today I'm going to show you how to make your own Fairy Nut Doll. The Fairy Nut Dolls are based on my original Baba Luba Nut Dolls. Baba is Macedonian for grandmother, Luba is Macedonian for love, and it was also my Baba's name. So I think of these as being grandmother love dolls, and they're kind of like positive voodoo dolls. I think of them that way anyway. And so I'm making these to help support Nickel Plate Art's Fairyville event this year. Let's get started making some fairy nut dolls. So first we have a lot of our odds and ends that you saw in our last video. Everything's ready. We're ready to get started with creating. Alright, we're back and we've got our pre-drilled pecan, glued our stick in with our Gorilla Glue. Remember, when you're drilling the nuts, especially if you are using a smooth nut like a pecan, if you're a youngster out there, be sure to get some help with the drilling of the nuts. Don't hurt yourself doing that. You don't have to use nuts, by the way. You can use whatever you want that you feel like you can stick on a stick. And I just use basic craft sticks or kitchen skewers for most of the bodies of the nut dolls that I make. So last time we were here, we created this lovely fairy. We called her the Fairy Queen of the River Shannon. She was fun. Lots of fun details with her. I don't know if the video shows, but this is actually a seashell, kind of a calcified seashell, and we were able to glue it to her head and then add some feathers to the back of it. So it's very cool. And then we also made Lady Holiday's Christmas style fairy. She's good for all the holidays and very festive. You could tie her onto a package or hang her up. You know, she's just lovely. Or you could put her on the Christmas tree if you want. Today, what I'm going to make is embracing one of my favorite colors, purple. So I've got a lot of purpley stuff and green stuff to work with because I definitely like purple and green. I'm thinking about using this fabric as the sort of outer layer fluffy fabric. And now what I have to do is I have to decide if I want to use the yellowish fabric that we used for Fairy Queen Shannon of the River Shannon, or if I want to use this fun fabric as the dress layer, the inside layer. And usually how I decide is I'll just take my fabric that's going to be the outer layer and put it outside of it and see which one I think looks the best. I think that looks pretty cool. I think if I do this one, we're going to lose some of the detail in both fabrics, and this is too cool of a fabric to do that with. So I'll save this one for another time and maybe just use some of the more sheer netting over that for another nut doll at a different time, another fairy. So much fun to make the fairies. Okay, so I know I'm going to use this, and I've got my little person ready to go. And just a reminder, for those of you who didn't see the earlier videos or just joining us for the first time for whatever reason, I don't usually iron my little fabric pieces, and I don't usually measure. I just kind of chop away at the fabric, and I use my pinking shears because that way over time, if any of the fabric decides to shred, it's fine. I don't mind shredding fabric. I think I said in one of my last videos that when the fabric shreds, you just end up with more fairy flu allure. Alright, my table's got glitter and stuff from the last time, so some of this might look a little funny, but okay, so that's going to be that one. And then I want to get a piece of this that's similar in size and shape to that one. So I'll probably go this direction, and just, because this is going to be the outer layer. Now, one thing I do want to say about the outer layer, see how it's wider at this end than this end? That's fine with me, because the back layer is usually, if I have a wider layer, it's to the back to kind of flow backwards from the fairy, and I often make it just slightly longer than the inside fabric. So, cut that. Now this piece of fabric just happens to have a kind of a hemmed edge, and I actually want to cut that off. I will save this little shred of hemmed edge for a ribbon, in case I ever need a ribbon that color. Alright, so now we've got, let me make sure I've got the right side out. Okay, so the shiny side is down, because your outer side always wants to be down. So this is the the brighter side, so that's going to be down. I think maybe that's slightly wider. And then what I want to do is fold this in half, like that, because then I'm going to cut our little head hole. I wish I was, better at explaining how deep of a cut to make or anything like that, but I'm really not. So once you've got the head hole in both pieces of fabric, then you just stick the little head through. And it can be nice and tight, because that ends up being around the neck of the nut doll, and that's fine to have it be slightly tight. So come on there. Okay, there we go. Alright, so right now that looks a little crazy. Let's do this so we can kind of see what we're dealing with, because now I want to put in the arms. We've got to make some arms. Last time I did that first. This time I wanted to get my layout for the fabric first. Now I'm just using like a craft wire, floral wire, and because of that, it's fairly thin. You might want to use a thicker wire, and that's fine. If you do use a thicker wire, you don't have to double it like I'm doing. If you have a thicker wire, you're just going to use it as is and create hands at the end with little loops, like you saw me do in the last video, or like I'll show you in just a second. So I'm doing my usual twisty. Oh, I better just reminded myself to plug in the hot glue gun, because we're going to need it. Okay, and then when we get down to about here, I have to switch and finish. I don't have the finger strength that I used to when I was younger, so sometimes I have to adapt my, okay, so now see how we've got a little hoop there? That's basically what I call a hand. And on this end, I'm just going to make the hand by curling the wire. And it's totally up to you how big of a hand you want your little nut doll to have. I prefer them to be small, because once you get all the decorative elements on your nut doll, that sometimes the green wire can look a little incongruous. It just, it's like, oh gosh, cover up the wire. And I used to use felt and cover the hands with felt. I don't do that anymore, because that is way too complicated. Okay, so now I make sure my head is facing. Okay, so I've got this, got my wire, my little hands. And for this one, I'm going to bend them forward all the way, and sometimes it's easier to put the hands on before you put your fabric on. And then I'll just glue the back as soon. Oh, well, see, this is what happens when you turn on your glue gun a little bit too late. It's not quite ready to come out. I use an old mini glue gun. It's so old. I've had this thing like 20 years, but it still works, and I still like it. Alright, so got my glue on there. Let that dry for just a second, because as we have learned, hot glue is hot. Alright. a little bit more forward. Just a dab of glue towards the front. Keep them in place. Sometimes I like to pop a different color in, a different element, and I kind of like how these look together. So I think I'm going to pop this color in there, just as something a little bit different. So if you remember from last time, the goal is to kind of gather up the waist, if you will. Don't worry about the sleeves and the arms because they get adjusted later. You're just gathering your material. And I just kind of keep pinching it in. Gather, gather, gather. Pinch, pinch, pinch. Put my ribbon down. And once I have that gathered, I don't really worry about it too much because this is just the tie it down. Give it a quick tie. A melon color. A little bow. Shorter the ribbon, the harder it is for me to tie a bow. You don't have to tie a bow there. You could just tie a knot if you want. I decided to go with a bow because why not? I'm not sure I like the way that looks. I think I'm going to do it the other way. I'm going to have the bow and tie it in the back. And then this is just our accent ribbon, so yeah. I'm going to drop a glue on that. Put that in place. Okay. Now, this is step one. We've got a little bit of fairy going on. She's basically dressed. She has clothes on. And you can adjust the fabric, pull it down, pull it through. Okay. So, got that. I'm going to cut that right there. My next step, I think what I want to do is to get some netting. And again, I'm just cutting a piece of netting with my pinking shears. And I kind of want to just play with that for a minute and see. What I'm trying to do is see if I want to put it like at the back of her to kind of extend the effect of that. I kind of like that, so I might do that. Because then I could take a piece of gold, bring it to the front, and this is the wired ribbon that I like to make hats with. I'm not sure if I'm ready to do the hat yet, so I think I'm going to create a shawl first for her, maybe. A shawl would be better. This is where you just get creative and you just play around until you figure out what you want to do. I think I kind of like that. Just a generic loose shawl that splays out behind her. See? That's kind of cool. I like that. Gives the sides a little more fairy effect. So this is where I have to figure out if I want to add another ribbon or just tack it down with glue at her waist or something. I think I'm just going to tack it with glue because I'm not ready to tie yet. So, ow, ow, ow. Glue is so hot, I have to use my little pokey thing to... Now, well, I need to form a hat. This is one of the best hat things ever, and I'll show you how it works. It's a little piece of, I don't even know what that's from, but it almost makes her look like she has green hair. And once you have that, then you can do so much with things on her head. So I think I'm gonna just glue this down from the back. The pecan nuts are a little slippery, but you get the drift. Okay, so just slipping on me. All right, got that. That looks kind of fun. I like that. I think that looks kind of fun for now, anyway. All right. The other thing is, with fairies, I always like to have feathers. You gotta have feathers, feathers, feathers. So let's get some feathers. Let's set her aside for a second, and we're gonna get some feathers and start making her wings. Alright, so we've got shorter ones, and longer ones, shorter ones. It doesn't really matter if they're long or short, because basically what you're going to do is you will end up layering so many feathers, if you want to, that is. And some are taller than others. So okay, so I've got quite a few there, and I've got some, I'm going to go ahead and pull out some little lavender ones, if I can find them. My bag of feathers is rather dilapidated. It's been around a long time, so some of my feathers are less fun than they used to be because they've gotten smooshed. Alright, that one there. I think this one should go here, not that one. That's better. Purple ones, they're so pretty. Alright, I'm going to save those purple ones. A little bit of a surprise. Okay, so now, got my basic shape for the wings, and I've learned the hard way that it's easier to attach the wings if you use a little piece of fabric or something to kind of be the base of the wings right there. But I don't want to use like a special piece of fabric that I love. I just want to use a little shred. And since I have this little piece of the actual fabric for the dress, I think I'll just use this. So, cut myself a nice little band, if you will. I know what you're thinking, Alice, you should have put that down first. Maybe so, but it's okay, because I'll just take my feathers, move them onto there, take these feathers, move them onto there, and hope they don't get too much disarray. Okay. I actually want that one over here, and this one can be right there. Okay. Now, get my handy dandy glue gun and glue them down to the fabric. This is where you kind of want to do it all in one fell swoop, because number one, the feathers stick to your fingers a little bit. Number two, the glue sticks to your fingers and the feathers and everything. So you want to pull away very carefully. Alright. Let that dry for a minute. Okay. And then we're going to kind of visualize where we're going to put that, and that's when I know where I want to put possibly a purple feather or two. And these are just going to be, just put a glob of glue in there and then stick your feather right on it, right in there, just within the other feathers, because this is basically going to be the back, on the back of the fairy, so it won't show up so much that you've got a clump of glue where on the feathers. So just re-gluing my little shawl on there, attaching it so I got that. I can work with that. Alright, this should be dry enough to peel off of here. Stuck to the canvas. Oh goodness. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is lay her down this way, because I want to glue it to her back, and just do some glue right there, womp womp womp, and then quickly before it dries, just pop that right behind her, and that one came loose, so I'm sticking it down in the glue. Those are a little loose. Okay, let's see how that looks. Very cute. Okay. Glue those down a little. Oops. Shoot. Always run out of hot glue right at the most inopportune moments. Okay. I have to glue these two down a little bit firmer. They were sliding out. I'm not sure about that one, so I'll just give it a little whop. Hop, hop, hop. I'm going to put something at her waist. I like this button, so I'm going to put that at her waist with some hot glue. Just pop it right there for decoration. And while that's kind of, all the glue is kind of drying and getting nice and solid, I'm going to create what we're going to put in her hands. And I need to move her just a little bit more out of the way. Okay. So what I'm going to put in one hand is a bouquet. And what I like to do with a handheld bouquet is find a couple of feathers that complement her wings. So I'll use these two feathers and put them with these two little purple flowers. And the way that I'm going to do that is, first I'll put the two little purple flowers together by just twisting one with the other, and then I will set the feathers behind them, like so. And I'm just going to have to do this, just quickly pop some hot glue on there. Oop. And then bring up the wires. Hot glue is so hot. Oh, how many times can a person say that? Many times. And the reason I'm letting that one wire step at the top is to just kind of give the feathers a little more strength. Okay. Alright, so here we are. That's the little bouquet that she'll hold in one hand. What I'd love to do in the other hand is kind of have her hold this like it's a crystal ball. Just not sure if I'm going to be able to do that because it might look too weird. I don't know. Let's see, maybe put it in this hand. See if I can get it. If I can place it, then I know I can glue it on there, and maybe that would look like a crystal ball. I think so. So this is kind of tricky because I have to glue it without actually. I think what I better do is put. Oh boy, I need her to stand up for a minute. Alright, so she's going to stand up, hopefully. Don't fall, crazy lady. I might need two of these. Alright, now pull back her sleeve. Okay, and then what I'm going to have to do is put glue on the ball just a little bit because it's really hot, and then try to get that on there really fast. Alright. Now this sleeve is a little bit longer than, but I think that's okay. That looks good. She's got a crystal ball in that hand, and then this hand will be the one she has her flowers in. Like that. I need to strengthen my. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm twisted a little bit, not towards you guys, but I have to be able to see the glue. So she's holding that. Okay, and I just the weight of the glue made her drop her bouquet. So that's always a danger. No, okay, we got a lot of glue shreds I'll have to be cutting off later. Oh dear, it's too much glue. For some reason a lot of glue came out on that one. Alright. The good news is it's still warm enough that I can attach it. Oh gosh. Oh, there we go. That's pretty good. Now it looks kind of messy, but I can clean that up. Let's see. Yeah. And I think just because it, okay, now I'm going to be able to lay her down again, I think. Just because it did get messy, I'm going to take this little purple feather and glue it right by her hand. A little tiny purple feather. And that's prettier than the clump of glue. Get my button ready, because what I'm going to do is put that right there. I definitely need to use something to push that down with because that is way too hot. Whew. Alright. Push, 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 push. So that's pretty much how you make a fairy nut doll. You can use any ingredients you have. I like to use shreds of fabric, shreds of ribbon, buttons, all kinds of things. You've seen what I use.